Quarterback. I'm your host, John Serenitas. And this week, I'm joined by Westborough High School head football coach, Joe Beveridge. Coach Beveridge, good to see you, man.
Great to be here. Appreciate the time and thinking about us as a program. And like I told you before, it's like hosting SNL. It's honored to be here.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you taking the time, coach. And this is somewhat like SNL, maybe old school SNL. I don't know if it's like new school SNL, but thank you for taking the time. Looking forward to talking some Westborough High School football with you. Before we do that, I do want to remind you that we are brought to you by Complete Quarterback. Visit CompleteQB.com today for all your quarterback needs. Whether you're someone who coaches quarterbacks currently and wants to refine their techniques, or you're looking to coach quarterbacks, or you're a quarterback yourself and you're just looking to find that edge, Complete Quarterback has got you covered. Chris Johnson has been coaching quarterbacks for over 25 years. He truly is one of the best in the business. I used to work his camps. I would know. Visit CompleteQB.com today for more information. I promise you, once you go on there, it's a great resource. You'll get a lot out of it. All right, Coach, thanks for taking the time. And you know, you mentioned this is like hosting SNL, so let's have some fun with it. Hey, maybe a skit could be born from your appearance here tonight. Who knows? But first things first, how's the offseason been going for you so far, for you, the program? How are things so far? It's hard to believe we're already into April.
Yeah, it's coming fast. The spring will be over before you know it, and we'll be getting it for the summer conditioning. Things are going well overall. Kids are excited. We've obviously had a couple of pretty decent seasons, so we're looking to continue to build off of that. And we have been moved up to the Midwatch A for the upcoming fall season. So the kids are looking forward to that challenge of playing some of the best league in Central Mass, in my opinion.
No, I would agree. And just give our viewers just a quick synopsis of the league and why is it considered the best league in Central Mass, at least for our Eastern Mass viewers.
Yeah, sure. No. Well, I would say start off, it's the biggest schools in Central Mass. You've got Leominster, Wachusett, Shrewsbury. The just sheer population numbers are the biggest in Central Mass. And then in terms of overall talent, you're typically looking at those same schools that are churning out, high division caliber players at the collegiate level. And a lot of those guys will obviously go to the NFL on occasion. You've got obviously the Division I quarterback up at Leominster. Currently at the moment, Shrewsbury, John does a great job consistently churning out a lot of kids that go on to Division I, Division II programs. He had a kid go to UConn, I think, 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, Cooper
Yep. Dubzimski has been at Wachusett forever and turned them around and does a great job year in and year out, 20 years going, give or take. You've added Grafton to the mix, and they're always a big, physical, strong football program that does things the right way there. So you're just, and then you have Algonquin, our Thanksgiving rival. I didn't want to leave them out. Sorry, I'm thinking regular season, not Thanksgiving. But Mark does a great job, obviously there, and the bloodlines with his father at Holy Cross and things like that. So there's just not an easy out in Midwatch A. And, we look forward to the challenge because the last 2 seasons when we've made the playoffs, we've gone up against the Hockomock teams, which are phenomenal. Very, very impressed with the programs I've seen, Mansfield with Mike and North Attleboro, obviously this past season going all the way. I think if we want to prepare our program to be able to compete with those teams once we get into the postseason, then we've got to get our guys ready during the regular season. And that starts with our league.
And Coach Attaway checks in. See you in week 2. So
yes, sir.
Great
guy, great coach. He did a great program. I grew up in Hudson with Zach and those guys. So very, very happy to see their success and the great job that Zach and those guys did to revive Hudson football. Outstanding job.
Outstanding job. Coach Attaway, thanks for checking in, man. We greatly appreciate it. And congratulations again on winning that D6 Super Bowl. So talk a little bit about your background, how you ended up at Westborough High School as a head football coach.
Yes, sir. So grew up in Texas. So, football was kind of mandatory growing up.
It's a religion.
Yes, it is. So moved up here when I was in 6th grade to Hudson and played there in high school. Moved on, and I didn't play at UMass Amherst. But after I graduated, I saw that my science teacher from 7th grade, Phil Marcagiani, who was just entered into the Hall of Fame last year, was winning Coach of the Year. So this is around 2001. And I asked him if I could join him. I just wanted to learn the game, and joined him for a couple of years and learned a lot, had a lot of success. And he taught me a lot about everything, absolutely everything. Couldn't ask for a better mentor than Coach Marcagiani. And when my wife got pregnant at the time, I moved on to Auburn, and fortune struck again, where I got to work with Coach Cormier and learn how he did things over at Auburn, and caught the beginning of that great 5-year run that he had, winning 5 consecutive Super Bowls here in Central Mass there. Got to teach at Northbridge, where I got to know Coach LaChapelle, another Hall of Famer, and got to talk to him about and learn ball from him. And from there, I went to Tantascwa, where I got to work Coach Powell, and he was generous enough to allow me to kind of explore, developing practice plans and developing offense and defensive strategies. And he let me kind of just spread my wings and see my ideas to fruition, if you will. And from there, I was the head coach after Aaron left in 2012. Had a 5-year run as the head coach at Tantascwa there, had a couple playoff runs there. Went to Worcester State for a short period of time and saw the collegiate game for a bit. And then after that, the collegiate game was a lot. I had a young one at home, and my wife was, on her own with 2 little ones. And, as you know, Saturdays all day, on the bus, to, Winnick and, WestCon and Mass Maritime, and we're gone all day. And then Sunday we're back at it, the film and breakdowns and the guys on the field and things like that. So it was a lot for my wife to have the 2 little ones at home alone. So I looked to get back into the high school ring. Westborough was looking. I interviewed with Mr. Carlo, who was the AD at the time, and got it. And for better or worse, COVID, I got the job February of 2020, and then the world shut down a month later. So that was difficult for everybody, navigating that COVID, especially being a new coach. They didn't know who I was. But I've been there since February 2020, and I'm very fortunate to be a part of the program. It's a great district, great community. It's very, very supported by my administrators. Mr. Callahan was a former coach, who's now the principal. Levi Hansen's my AD, who coached with us. So I couldn't ask for anything else. Great facilities, great administration, great kids. I'm a very lucky guy.
Yeah, and it's a program that's had success in the past, and certainly it's a program that you mentioned. It's a big enough school where there's athletes there that kids tend to stay in Westborough. It's an affluent community, and you have an opportunity there to really build a program that can contend for state titles. And you mentioned the move up to Midwalk A this upcoming season. Talk a little bit about the program right now and where it's at. Obviously, you guys made the playoffs last year, ended up losing to North Attleboro, but shouldn't take away from a solid season nonetheless. But talk about the state of the program right now and where it's at.
Yeah, I mean, we're just continuing to develop the program. Every year is unique, as you know. I think we've been on a good trajectory over the last couple of seasons, and I think what we've done a good job of is recruiting the hallways. We got there, and I think as we were talking about before we went live about selling the program, here on the show. But I think that's what we are trying to do every single day at the school is recruit the hallways and recruit the athletes that are not playing football at the moment and get them out to play. So we have to make it as cool as we can to the kids, whether that's the schemes that we design or getting the kids protein shakes in the weight room when no other program has it, or getting Chick-fil-A sandwiches for Monday during film. Whatever it is that makes it look cool to the kids is the stuff that we try and do. So when kids are walking down the hallway and like, hey, how'd you get that? Well, I'm the football team. Again, that's something that we find very, very critical to our success. And you saw it this past year, Justin McCafferty, the basketball player who had a great season playing receiver for us. Dylan Fisher was a guy that had never played football before. Cam Petralia 2 seasons ago, almost had 1,000 yards rushing. He had never played football until his junior year. So getting those athletes out to come play football, it has been paramount to our success.
And what is the key for coaches that are watching this? What is the key, in your opinion, to getting those kids to play? Because, look, one of the struggles that we've always faced in our game is getting the athlete who might be that basketball, baseball kid, but there's some trepidation there, whether it be the athlete themselves or a parent. There's some kind of a disconnect with football there. You mentioned all of the things that you guys do within the program, but what would you attribute your success to getting those kids to come out and play? What what would you say is the key to getting those types of athletes to come out and play?
I would say three things. I would say number one, when I talk to kids that want to play, it's usually I want to play, but my mom is worried about me playing football. So I make the phone call to mom, and it's always concussions, right? So I talk to mom about how number one, the game has never been safer in terms of how it's being taught. The tackling that Coach Carroll brought to all levels of football with the Gator, the hawk tackling and things like that. So I talked to them about what we do at Westborough to keep the head out of the play. We're limiting the contact during the week. We are not going live outside of the legal amounts that is produced by the MDIAA. We take care of the kids. Their safety is important to us because, again, if we're beating them up, they're not available for Friday. So, that's number one, is talk to mom and sell her on the program. We've gotten a couple kids out that way, telling mom that, we're going to take care of the kids, and we have. And they've been successful doing that. Second part is selling the kids. And again, the kids, they want to be a part of something that's fun. They want to have fun, and they don't want to get their butts kicked, frankly, in front of their friends on Friday night. So I think, again, selling the program, the jerseys, the protein shakes and things like that in the off season. Again, the food on certain nights that we get together. We do off season lifts, and we have teams, and we give them awards. Free gear, free shirts, hoodies, things like that, for a certain amount of attendance things during the off season. And then, we try and make it fun during practice. We only have 2 hours because we share the fields with all the other fall sports. And again, we're not just lining up the ball in the middle of the field and just running plays and smashing into each other. We try and make it fun. And what we do is, we got the music going, and every day is a different theme. So the kids are bouncing around, enjoying the music. And everything is competition. Everybody loves to compete, right? We wouldn't be in this position if we didn't love it. Athletes are athletes. They love to compete. So we just try and get after it and have fun. And the kids love to get after it. So, for example, we could do something like, if it's offensive day, we'll have a 3rd and long period. And we tell the kids, all right, we need to convert 40% of these 3rd and 8 situations. So we'll go 5. We're going to run 5 plays at 3rd and 8. Defensive scout. If you guys stop us 4 times, then offense is going to run. Offense, if you don't convert 2 of these, then defense, or you convert 2, then the defense is going to run. So again, you think the running would be a consequence, but it's not. The scout team is fired up to get the offense, the varsity starters to run, and then the varsity doesn't want to run, so they're going to get after it and not go through the motions. So any little thing that you can get these guys, the juices flowing, the blood flowing, and get them competing and having fun is what we try and do.
Yeah, and it's important.
Yeah.
It's important in football, especially because we're only playing once a week. And so, particularly if it's a kid that's new to the sport, new to the program, that's a little different for them, because they're used to playing twice a week in the winter, or up to 3 times a week in the spring, depending on what they play. So, yeah, it's a much different mindset from an athletic standpoint. One of the questions I ask all coaches that I have on this show, Coach Beveridge, is, have kids changed? I think they have, but I think they've changed because times have changed. Where do you stand on this? Do you think kids have changed?
The heavy hitting questions. So
they can't all be softballs, my friend.
No, sir, they can't. So I would say that to a degree that kids have changed. I think every generation is a little different than the previous one. I think, when I was a kid, the generation before me probably thought we were soft, and we were different. And now the kid,
we weren't walking 10 miles to school backwards in the front.
Oh, exactly. Right. We're uphill both ways in the snow,
Right,
and, no
right.
shoes in our feet. But
Yeah.
no, I would say the biggest difference, in my opinion, is kids have a lot more access to entertain themselves than they ever have before. Right. Like anything they want is in their pockets on their phone. Right. They can watch any movie they want. They can listen to any song they want. They can look up anything they want whenever they want. There's just no opportunity for them to be bored anymore. So I think, again, going back to that, making it fun, again, I have to sell the kids on my program and them enjoying it. Being out there on a July morning working out has to be fun for them. A late August practice when we're, going 2-a-days and they're sweating their I don't know what I can say, off.
They're
You got it.
derriere.
You got it. You got it. That has to be made fun for them, or they can just quit and go back to their video games and movies and Instagram and TikTok, whatever else these guys are doing nowadays. So I just think that these kids have more options to be entertained. Where again, you and I growing up, if you weren't playing football, all your friends were playing football, and you had nothing to do because your friends were gone. So I would say that's the biggest difference is just you got to sell the program on, and they're going to enjoy it. And again, we are trying to sell our program on. We're going to make you better men and good husbands, fathers, brothers, things like that. And at the end of the day, as they mature, I think that's something they realize after the fact. But in the meantime, I'm not trying to get that kid out. You're going to enjoy it. Your friends are going to be here. You're going to make friends, and you're going to have a good time. And we're going to win some games, hopefully, in the midst of it.
Honestly, one of the things that coaches have said to me through the years is that one of the ways that they do attract kids is their philosophy and how their style of play. And I think now more than ever that does matter. And this is hard for me because I'm a tried and true multiple offense guy. I want to line up playing 21, 22 personnel, 32 personnel, pound the ball. But I also recognize, and I think a lot of coaches have come around to this, and it's easier to do now in this era of spread offenses. But a lot of coaches have come around to the idea that kids want to go out there and they want to have fun. They don't want to get into 2 and 3 tight ends and get into 4-point stances and just ram into other people. They want to be able to play the game in space. Have you found from a philosophical standpoint, have you had to change the way you operate really in all 3 phases in order to attract kids to the program?
I don't think I've changed. I think, Coach LaChapelle at Northbridge talked about this a long time ago with me, which was, he wasn't interested in playing 11 on 11. He wanted to play 1-on-1. I want to put my best guy and isolate him, and you can put your best guy out there and let's see who wins. So that was his biggest influence on me, was the idea of spreading out and getting and spreading the ball and spreading the wealth in that type of formation. So I've kind of been a spread guy since having that opportunity to work with Kenny for a couple of years, or having lunch with him for a couple of years. And so I don't know if I've changed my mentality. Actually, a couple of years ago, we went to the I formation. We had 6 quarterbacks start for us in 11 games a handful of years ago, just through injury and things of that nature. So with that kind of turnaround, we went under center. We went 22 personnel, maybe even 32. You'd have been proud. And
I would have.
and just lined up and ran ISO, counter, toss, things like that, because we had to. And in doing so, we ended up finding an identity with our goal line, short yardage type of stuff. And the kids latched onto that and are pretty proud of when we go 22 personnel guys. We talk about, that nobody's confused about what's going on here. This is just an attitude play. We're running, they know what we're doing. What we're doing. Who's the bigger, stronger, tougher team?
You are watching the Coaches Chat presented by Complete Quarterback. I'm your host, John Serenitas. This week, I'm joined by Westborough High School head football coach Joe Beveridge. And Coach Beveridge, sticking with the theme of philosophy, defensively, how do you like to play? You mentioned the spread offense, and it's taken over football. I got into coaching in the early 90s, and I remember back then it was the wing T that was the prominent offense, and every defensive coach and their mother out there was scrambling to find a book or go to a clinic or go to a practice where they can get an edge to stop the wing T. And you had so many really good wing T programs in those days running that offense. And it used to be that you only really ran the eye or power eye or those types of formations if you had the personnel. If you didn't, you needed the misdirection in the counter game. The spread has become that now. From a defensive standpoint, without getting into specifics, what do you call fronts or coverages or any of that stuff, but philosophically, how do you want to play defensively? How do you want to defend so much of what we see today, which is the spread offense? Or at least, what's your philosophical approach to defending it? Again, you don't have to give away secrets here.
Oh, no secrets. Everything's out there, right? I mean, everybody stole something from everybody.
Copycat league, as they say about the NFL.
Right. And I don't think there's anything that I've invented that I do on any side of the ball. So it's all an open book. But no, I have coach Ryan Daly. He was the head coach of Sutton for a couple of years. He was the first coach of that program. And I got to know him under Phil Marcagiani because he played and coached there at Marion High School that was in Framingham. And he does an amazing job with our defense. I mean, the reason why we are in most of these games is because the job that Coach Daly and the rest of the assistants do. getting these guys ready on that side of the ball. And no, we're a 3-4 front. We've kind of, worked on that for the last couple of years. At first, we were rolling safeties down and showing you too high and rolling, and we were playing games with that. And then, frankly, we didn't feel like we had the athletes at the time that could go single receiver, with the corners being isolated in that cover 1, cover 3 type of sets. So we ended up staying too high for the most part. And now we're just giving you basically cover 2, 4, 6 looks with the 2 highs, and the safeties can come up if they run read based upon what we're facing. And again, the reason why I think Ryan does such a great job is, as it's something different every week. We've got Marlborough that runs the split back veer. You've got Shepherd Hill, that previously that runs the double wing. Then you got Leominster that's got the H back running their zone and split zone type of stuff. You had Wachusett that used to run the wing T. Now they're more spread. Algonquin runs the split T formation. So every week there is just something brand new. So a credit goes to, again, Ryan, getting these guys to be able to adapt our fronts and looks and reads based upon their personnel, based upon what they like to do in each front and each coverage. And again, the assistants every Monday, Ryan gives us the plan, here guys, this is what the inside backers need to do, outside backers, cover, safeties, this is the alignments we're going to use in the front. These are the blitzes we're going to use this week. Again, inside linebackers, if we're a split back veer, that might be reading, the quarterback's turn, pivot on week 2. And then they're reading the guard pulls against a wing T team week 3. And then they're reading the fullback against a night team week 4. So, again, it takes a lot, but again, the kids buy in and are attentive and listen and do a good job of following the game plan, and Ryan puts it all together. So the kudos all go to him.
Where do you stand on? There's been so much movement in the high school football landscape in Massachusetts. Every 2 years with realignment, things change. Teams go up, they go down. Obviously, we've had a slew of proposals in recent years in regards to the playoffs, and we're looking at some additional change coming now in 2026. Where do you stand on all that? And what is your thoughts on Central Massachusetts versus Eastern Mass? And I say this because we're the only publication in Eastern Massachusetts that covers the entire state. I mean, Mass Live does some of it, but we go across the board. And we talk to coaches all the time, and coaches will tell us, yeah, I want to play more Eastern Mass teams, or I want to play more Central Mass teams, but it doesn't always line up. Where do you stand on all of the moving parts, and what is your viewpoint of Central Mass versus Eastern Mass, and what you need to do to be able to compete with schools out here?
You'd like to get me in trouble, I think, because I'll speak honestly. So I think with all the moving,
that's why I like having you on as a guest.
So I think in terms of the realigning and things like that, I just think that when you talk to coaches, or at least when I talk to coaches, as we're hanging out in pregame, at the 50-yard line, everybody has a reason why. I don't want to say they can't compete, but something that's they have to overcome in their program at their school, right? Whether it's school fees, whether it's practice facilities, whether it's kids not coming out, whatever it is, everybody has something. So in that regard, I just wish that everybody would just, whatever your numbers are your numbers. Who cares if you're inner city? Who cares if you're rural?
You can only play with the kids that you have in your building.
That's it.
Unless you have school choice, or there's something else that affords you the opportunity to have bigger numbers.
Yep, and I think that again, Westborough, we have 1,100 kids in the program. I mean, in the school, and
1,100 kids in the program. That's really
that'd be lovely, right? Now I'm thinking back to Texas days, I guess. But no, there's 1,100 kids, but we don't have school choice. So if a kid that is an athlete wants to be a part of the Westborough program, well, their family has to move into Westborough. So is that equitable to the schools that are in our division that have school choice? Or a private school that can. Am I allowed to use the word recruit because they don't recruit?
Feel free. It's a family show, but other than an F-bomb and S-bomb, you're pretty good.
So these private schools that can happen upon athletes and they just magically go to their school, we don't have that opportunity. So is that equitable? I would probably argue no. But at the end of the day, everybody has their reasoning and they're shuffling to move their divisions up and down. And you see a lot of the controversy, obviously, with CM, and their alignments with where they are. And then you just saw a giant shuffling of Division II schools down to Division III, and then you see all those guys go down to Division IV. And then it ends up kind of being similar with 48 schools or whatever it was in Division VIII, which is obscene because now you've got programs that have 80 kids, 80 boys in their class in their school, going against schools with 500 boys, and that's supposed to be equitable. No, that's not. But I think there's just way too many. I guess for lack of a better word, self-serving interests in trying to design these divisional alignments when instead of looking for what's best for my individual program, what is best for the state of football.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think we have a long way to go before we find a system that truly works for the game. And with all due respect to these other coaches in these other sports, I mean, I own New England Football Journal, not these other sports journals. And at the end of the day, my number one priority is football and the state of football in New England. And the way I look at it, I agree with you. I think our system can be better. It can be more equitable. It can be a lot of things. And so we still have a long way to go in terms of fixing it and making it right. Simple question here. What is the core of your philosophy overall when it comes to your program?
Sure. I mean, again, we want to make kids better people through the sport of football. At the end of the that's as simple as I can make it. And we try and do certain things to hold these kids and give them attributes to be successful. We try and hold them accountable and teach them good character and compete and be responsible and selfless and things of that nature. Again, I learned this from Joe Casamento. I don't know if you know that name. He was out in Christian Brothers Academy in New York.
Yep.
But he gave a great Nike clinic years back about why do you want your kids to go to the weight room? And all the guys were talking bigger, faster, strong, things like that. He's like, that is a product at the weight room. He's like, but what you're doing is you're actually teaching them, selflessness, camaraderie, respect for respect for others, things like that. All the attributes that are going to be, serving them for the rest of their lives. So, I really took hold of that and try and practice that to my best ability is we're going to be good to them. We're going to be respectful. We're going to treat them as adults. And we're going to do the best we can for them on and off the field. And in doing so, we expect the best out of them too.
And final question here for you, Coach. And again, I want to say thank you for taking the time tonight. I really do appreciate it. It's great talking Westborough High School football with you. What can we expect from Westborough High School this fall? Who are some of the guys we should be looking out for? Just a look ahead to Westborough football and what we could potentially expect this fall.
Sure. No, we got to move up to the A, but our goals are going to be the same. Where our three goals typically are: we want to win our league, we want to make the playoffs, and we want to win Thanksgiving. So that doesn't change. We just got to get better. There's no weeks off, and like I said, the kids are excited about it. We start off with Burlington, who has a Division I receiver there, and I think the kid's Ryan Brooks, I believe is the kid's name. And then we go to week 2, the defending champion Hudson Hawks. Week 3 at Marlborough, and we got Doherty, Grafton, Shrewsbury, Wachusett, Leominster. So there's no week off. So kids are working hard in the off season, and we're hoping to compete. I think we have some talent, but we're going to be very young. We only have 5 seniors this year, so it was kind of a tough year for us to be moved up. But I've been telling the kids, I think they're hoping that we're the Vanderbilt of the A League here. Raise the GPA of the league and hopefully have an easy win. And we're hoping to ruin their expectations here.
Well, Coach Beveridge, I want to say thank you for taking the time, my friend. Greatly appreciate it. And certainly if there's anything, we can ever do to help out, the program, let us know. Whether it comes, when it comes to sharing information or fundraising or anything like that, just let us know. We're happy to help, and appreciate you taking the time tonight.
Absolute honor. Watch you guys every week, and the coverage you guys do is second to none. And again, you guys and then the Charter 3, the Friday Night Frenzy guys here in Worcester and Central Mass, we're very appreciative of you guys covering high school athletics and the kids. And thank you sincerely from the bottom of my heart. You guys do a great job.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, I've been in football for 30 years. I've coached. I've done media. The game means a lot to me. And when I started this company in 2019, the goal was simple. Just it was to start a business that's going to help grow the game and help the game stay strong and survive, really, because we have had times in our game's recent history where our backs have been up against the wall. So we want to make sure that we're promoting the greatest game in the world. Coach Beveridge, thank you for taking the time, and let's do this again down the road.
Appreciate it. Good to see you. See you soon, hopefully.
All right. See you soon. Thank you, Coach. That is Joe Beveridge, head football coach at Westborough High School. That'll do it for this episode of the Coaches Chat. For Coach Beveridge, I'm John Zernitas. Till next time, peace.